Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are going to start with your first video on application components. So basically I'm going to discuss what are the components of an application and what are the common languages and technologies that are used at each of these component layers. Okay, so there basically any application can be divided into three parts. Let me tell. Okay, there are 3-tier applications, there are 2-tier applications, blah blah blah, but I will not go into all those details. I'll just say any application can be divided into three parts: the front end, the back end or the business logic, and a data tier. Okay, these are the three main components of an application, no matter how you package the application. It could be packaged as a single package, maybe an Android app or an iOS app, or it could be packaged as three different components: a front end separate, a back end separate, a database separate. These could be, but any application will basically have these three components in it. Now I am going to see what is front end. This defines what the user sees and his experience with the applications. So that's your UI. Any application you take, you will probably have a UI. Okay, the most backend oriented applications UI could just be a command line in which you type the command to run that application, and its log files could be a place where you basically store the data of whatever is being processed. So okay, so there is a UI for every application. Without a UI you cannot interact with any application. It could be a console, it could be a flashy new web page, or it could be a complex front end app of a SAP system. Okay, so this is how your front end is. It is a, these three tiers which I have defined will be there in any other any applications logically. Okay, people may term it differently, but logically there will be three parts to every application. Okay, so now it's a place where users interact. Could be your login page. For example, you open a browser, it throws up your login, or even Google search page. So the search page of Google with one input box and one button, this is nothing but your UI. Some UIs are simple, like Google. All Google UIs are very simple, not too much flashiness or something. Probably they believe that their backend core is so strong that they don't have to mask it with a lot of jazzy things, aesthetics. Okay, so but yes, so that's their UI. I like their UI because it's simple and straightforward, to the point. Okay, I don't have to search things here, there, run around. So that's a good way of designing your UI. Okay, so next, now what are the programming languages that you will use in your front end? Okay, the simplest web page is HTML, CSS and a JavaScript based. Okay, this is the most common and most used framework today for any web application. If it's a web application, it would be HTML, CSS and a JavaScript. Okay, now the JavaScript could be raw JavaScript or JavaScript TypeScript libraries like React, Electron, Angular, and there are n number of libraries that people have come up, which makes a coder's life very easy, believe me. Okay, and then it could also be the older technologies where you had the JSPs, ASPs and the PHP, or even you have the Django framework in which you have the backend code somewhere embedded into your HTML. So it's a combination of Java and HTML, or .NET and HTML, or PHP and HTML, or Python and HTML, something like that, a combination. So these are various technology. But when you come to mobile apps, okay, there is something you need to know. There are two ways which you can design a mobile app. One, using the core language as given by the mobile application providers, which could be C, Java, Swift. I missed out Kotlin. So these are the core low programming languages that were given by iOS or Android or whatever for that matter. That is, or there are some native libraries. Basically what native libraries means, people have used you run JavaScript libraries like React, okay, or Electron on something which is built already using your core C or Java or Swift. So there is a layer of core C, Java or Swift libraries which are then, upon that you run your JavaScript code. They call your backend program, and then they interact with your device. So that's the way it is. So that is again both ways. So the advantage of using the core libraries are, it makes your software smaller and it directly interacts, but you need to do a lot of hard work because you cannot code in Java for your iOS device and you cannot code in Swift for your Android device. So you need to know two languages, you need to write the same logic twice, and all those things come up. Whereas these native libraries give you that option of you code once, it works on both the device, or even for that matter some of them offer the flexibility of making a Windows package also. Okay, so that's also possible. So that's another way where you code just in the React Native, for example, and then based on your requirement it will run both on your iOS as well as Android, and in some cases Windows as well. So that's the way this development or this and these could also be, some of these will be full-fledged applications, means you probably backend, front end and your data tier all are combined when it comes to mobile apps. Or there could be mobile apps which has just the front end which makes calls to your backend. Now let's see what is a backend. Backend, or the business logic, is the place where the actual data processing happens. Okay, so what happens is, any data you need, you're going to ask the backend. The backend will go and fetch it from your database and do all the transactions, blah blah blah, the way you want it. It will churn the data and give it to you. There are also backends which are very simple. So you ask my username password, it will check in the database, yes, username password matched, okay, that's a simple case. But normally it will be more complex. It could probably go to the backend and fetch millions of records, do some computation and give you back the results still in seconds. So that's how you have the backend. So backends could be, some of them CPU intensive, some may be memory intensive, some may be both, okay, or just some of them, just as I told you, it's just a pass through, very fast transactions happen. Okay, when it comes to mobile apps, either you will have a backend within the mobile app only when it's a combined application. Otherwise the front end is built and the backend will be on a server where you will actually hit and get the data. So Java, C, Python, Node.js, which is basically the coding language, is JavaScript, but it runs on a Node server. Okay, so there are many more such programming. These are currently what I get it top of my mind I have written. There are lots, COBOL and these guys. Some of them are probably still running, some of them are obsolete. Okay, so this is the way it is. How do you choose a language? Let me just interrupt and tell you. Okay, there are various factors where you choose from where to code it from. First, you have to be comfortable with it. Yes. Okay, you cannot learn 50 languages and say no. Okay, so you have to be comfortable for it. That doesn't mean you pick your language for every task. That's not going to work, because every language has its positives and has its negatives. Okay, so you have to choose what suits best for that particular application's functionality. Okay, both functional and non-functional requirement, what fits the best, and use that. Okay, simple web server, no, you can use anything. But the moment you start more and more compute, data analytics or AI or whatever it is, business transactions, online transaction processing, these kind of things start coming in, then it becomes more complex. So you will have to see a lot of things while choosing what, and you need to balance it well as well. So there are a lot of ways, you can see what suits what best. There are a lot of articles available on the web. You can always do study and choose your programming language which you want to code in for that particular application. And once you have comfortable with 2 or 3 programming languages, learning the fourth, fifth, sixth will not be very difficult. It will be very easy because the concepts remain the same, only maybe the syntaxes change. They might have some extra functionalities or modules, and they might not have certain functionalities or modules that you have worked on, but that's it. You should be able to, if you are today, if once you get conversant with the first, the second becomes easier. Once you are conversant with first two, the third becomes easier, and so on. So it is possible. Okay, but only problem is, you tend to get diverged, and sometimes you might end up making syntax errors, confusing between programming languages and all those things. But it's up to you how what suits you the best. Now we will go to the third tier, which is the okay. Before going to the backend, I would like to introduce the concept of API. Okay, it's basically a standard service that's exposed on HTTP or HTTPS protocol that can be reused. For example, you can write a program to authenticate user against Google and Facebook logins, okay, and then expose the API. So any application which wants to actually authenticate against Google and Facebook can use this API. So they will have a front end form which will actually capture the username and password and send the data to your API, and your API in a particular format. So could be XML, could be JSON. So these are the things. Probably I will take it up in my next video or the video after that. So it will send it based on or in a form based data. So it will come. So your API will be so when you write your API, you will specify that whoever is calling my API will send the data in a certain format. Could be JSON, could be XML, could be form based, or could be blobs, or whatever it is. You say I will only accept these. So the moment you get that particular data, you validate that data, process and return the result. So the advantage is people need not reinvent things. Okay, for example, Facebook and Google already have the APIs for authentication. All applications do is call that API, pass on your username and password, get the details and say whether you are authenticated or not. They might get some more fields from there as a return, your profile picture, blah blah blah, all those things also they will come, which they might opt to store somewhere else or then drop it otherwise. So that's the concept of API. So it makes the front end and the back end totally independent. So there is no hard binding between the front end and the back end. As long as the data is given in a particular format, the back end will process and return the result in a particular format which the front end has to understand. So when you develop a front end for an API, all you need to know is what you give and what you take and what is the format. That's all is needed. The internal logic you don't have to bother, and it makes your entire application very modular. So already you have split the front end and the back end. So there could be n number of APIs which can be shared between millions of applications. For example, today probably Facebook and Google expose their APIs to millions of applications. Not only them, even cloud service providers today expose their applications, whether it be Amazon or Google or DigitalOcean or whoever it is. There are a lot of APIs that they give out, so which I can use to build my app around their services. So that's the way, that's the concept of API. So it's basically it's a part of your backend or the business logic. And then the most important tier is the data tier. So data tier is basically where we store and retrieve data. Okay, it could be a file server. Okay, there are a lot of file servers. It could be a physical file server, or it could be a virtual file server, or as a file service offered by Amazon like S3 or something like that. okay, where we can store and retrieve data from, or it could be a database server, or it could also be what I missed out is LDAP. LDAP is something called lightweight directory access protocol, where you can store a lot of information in a simple format. For example, authentication. Your active directory is nothing but a LDAP. Okay, so you can authenticate and get, once you're authentic, you will get back your groups, users, which groups you belong, what are your permissions, these kind of things can be fetched easily. So that's another kind of a data tier. Okay, so or it could be a big data, where you have millions and millions of sorry, trillions, or I don't know how many data stored there, rows stored there, so that whenever you want you can retrieve the data. So I would like to introduce a concept of synchronous and asynchronous at this point of time. It's very important, because databases you can have, whenever you call database and it returns a result, it is synchronous, means you query, it gives you immediate, because it's a structured data, it knows where what is stored and it retrieves and gives you immediately. But whereas in case of big data, it could be a asynchronous, which means you make a call, you request some data, it's unstructured data, it quite takes some time, it could take 5 minutes or 50 minutes or more, probably sometimes some transaction takes days. Okay, so that's basically depends on what kind of data and how much data is stored. So this is synchronous and asynchronous. So synchronous, we say that as the program runs, you do the transactions, you get back the data, you send it to the front end. Asynchronous means you start it whenever the front end will, or you start it and you wait for a result. Okay, it could return in 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, or you could also have a program where you start and forget it, and it would have created an output file somewhere. After 5 days you go pick it up and parse the file. So it could be that way, could be any way. So that's synchronous and in asynchronous. They are very important as we go further. Okay, because so for a front end, even a small HTTP request could sometimes be asynchronous, in fact, in a way, because you make a call to the backend. The backend could take 1 second to return, 2 seconds to return, 3 seconds to return, 4 seconds to return. Okay, in which case, okay, beyond that, I would say, I think there are standards, where we expect a page to be loaded or a data to be loaded in certain seconds. Okay, if it is not, we don't appreciate it well. The user doesn't wait. You cannot ask the user to wait for 15-20 seconds to get some data from the backend. Okay, so that's the way it is. So yeah, so they are also asynchronous calls. Okay, but they are still faster than fetching data from a big data database. So your login, sometimes you would have also observed, you put in username, password, it takes some time to retrieve and date and give you, but that's okay, they will show you a loading page till then. So that's a async call. So to make a call, show a loading icon round, and then once you get the response, they flash up a page. So that's also kind of an async. Most of the API calls that you make to the backend, or even all the requests you make to the backend, are async calls, especially when the backend and front end are separated. Okay, it's an async call. So you make a call, you wait for the result, and when it comes, you do. Synchronous are mostly, you have a set of application commands, or you have set of code which runs one after the other. The first one's result is fed to the second one, the second one read to the third one. They run quite synchronously, one after the other. Those are synchronous. Okay, so that's something which you will learn and the more you work with front ends, the more you are going to run some of them. Yeah, so you will know what is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. Okay, and how do you handle them? Okay, you can define functions as synchronous, you can define functions as asynchronous, you can define functions as promises. So these things we will see later as we go, okay, further and further. But for now, just to give you a concept, okay, so I will just now recap with quickly on how the data flows. The user makes a request, let's say login page. So you are going to tell your front end to get me the login page. So the front end gives you the log. So that's a get request. You are going to fill in your username and password, click the submit button. What are you doing? You are posting something. So that's a post call. So that post call goes and hits your backend. Could be API, could be in a different way, in a traditional way. It's going to process the data. It will validate the data. It will see if your user, okay, all those things it will do. Okay, if a password matches 8 characters, blah blah blah, all those things, and then finally it will hit the backend, your LDAP or the database, and fetch whether you are authenticated. If you are authenticated, it will send back an information saying send him to the home page, or it might say no, his authentication failed, send him back to the login page with a message. So that's will go back, and the front end will get this message, and it will see, okay, I can forward him to the front login page. Again, I have to forward him, or I can send him to the home page. So it will understand that and present it. So this is how your cycle happens for every web application. This is how it is. Okay, if it's a purely back-end applications, there might not be any gets and posts, because you will type something on the command line. The command line will initiate a back-end program. The back-end program will process it. Okay, maybe in seconds, or it could take hours, or it could take days, and once it is done, it will probably write the data or update the data or whatever it has to do, it will do, and give you a success or failure message based on how it's been programmed, or send you a mail after 5 days, okay, your process for this particular thing you had started 5 days back is complete now. So that's how this entire part flows. So this is a simply how it looks. Okay, now there are various, in this part there are 3 parts. You see there's a UI interaction in a web application server kind of a scenario. The front end would be served by what we call as a web server, and the middle layer is something called as an application server, which does the processing, and the third layer would probably be a file server or a database server or a LDAP server, okay, or a big data cluster, for example. So that could be anything. So these are some things which will form which will, as a developer, you will probably code considering the functional flow, but as an architect, when you look at it, you will probably also look at what is the app server I'm going to run on, what is the web server I'm going to run on, what is the database I'm going to use. Okay, all these come from functional and non-functional requirement, which again I will emphasize is the part of your problem statement. So okay, so get the problem statement correct, then you can size your entire architecture, do it properly. Okay, so I will end at this part. This video I will end it now. Okay, before I go, you do more research on the 3 tiers. Google around and find the concept of open source. Okay, you will hear open source everywhere. Get to know what exactly open source is. Okay, so that's a very nice thing. Okay, that is a nice thing that has happened in the world of coding, or in the world of software, or in the world of IT, or any. I think it could even go beyond IT, actually speaking, because today everything is driven by code as infrastructure as a code. Today car runs on code. Okay, your bikes run on code. So there is code everywhere. But yes, so learn about open source. Okay, because that's where we are going, that's where we will head at the end of the day. That is what is going to survive. So next, before I close, next we will see the common programming concepts. Okay, what is a variable, what are how do you initialize a variable, how do you manipulate a variable, what's a constant, Okay, and there are if loops, for loops, while loops, so on and so forth. So we are going to go through all these as we go forward. Okay, till then, take care and goodbye.